Hello and welcome to the VST Weekly Roundup. We are recapping week 9 of the football season, and week 9 saw some clinches. I think it saw 3, if I'm not mistaken, and there was some action throughout. Some teams are solidifying their placing in the playoffs, and we will know that very shortly after the conclusion of week 10. So that's exciting there. But before we jump into all of that, as always, my name is Arshavir Saryan. I'm joined by the geniosity of Kenny Hodges and Kaylie Harden. Always excited to have you guys. How you doing?
I'm excited. It's been a great season, and we're getting close to the end of league play. Playoffs are about to start. What more could you look forward to?
Yeah, man. I repeat the same sentiments. Hey, listen, I'm in the spirit. It's roundup time. You see my hat. I broke out this Round Rock hat with the lasso on it because it's time to round up. It's time to rally the troops and as we barrel towards the postseason, I'm excited. Let's jump right on into it.
All right, and so let's jump in. I'm gonna do as we've done many times. I'm gonna go east to west and just keep it quick and simple. Verdugo Hills solidified their spot in the playoffs with a 19-0 victory over Monroe. They kind of at this point have an outside chance of maybe getting a home game in D3. They're on a bye, so depends on how teams around them do. Pauley went into Chavez and shut them out. It was 15-0, and that kind of puts Pauley at a position where they might go D2. Chavez is also looking interesting, but that donut might hurt them. And the last game that was in the East Valley last week locked up the league title for Arleta. It was a 41-15 final over North Hollywood. And I've lost count. I believe, and I have to confirm this, that I think since Arleta came into existence roughly 15 years ago, I believe they have at least 6 league titles. So that's a heck of an accomplishment. This team has leaned on their defense. They seem to go back to that identity. And I mean, holding NoHo to 15 points and scoring 41, it means they probably have cleaned up some of the things that have been bothering them the last few weeks. So with that, moving into the Valley Mission, Silmar went into Van Nuys, and this was a 47-28 final. Van Nuys has had an interesting season, and it only gets tougher right before they potentially try to squeak into playoffs. We'll see how that works out. But they played a Silmar team tough, 3-score difference. And the big story, well, 1A, 1B. But coming out of the Valley Mission, Coach Austin Ward picks up his first win as the head coach of the Reseda Regents. The Regents were going up against the Canoga Park Hunters. This was a 24-23 final. And, Canoga Park put up a heck of a fight. This game was back and forth throughout. And, Coach Lucius Mills, did not get his first win this season. But there's some promise there. So I can see kind of his fingerprints the similar way we've been watching that Reseda program grow. I'll have more in depth on this one later. And the final game in the Valley Mission, Panorama went into Kennedy and could not really put it together against this team. Kennedy seems to be humming on all facets. It was a 55-20 final. Kennedy Golden Cougars are your Valley Mission League champions. Now, again, they do have to defeat Van Nuys to complete the undefeated season. But I believe, unless they have a co-champion agreement in that league, I believe Kennedy has clinched that title there. And over to the West Valley, Granada Hills hosted El Camino. This score does not look very pretty. It was a 30-2 final. El Camino only mustering up a safety to get on the scoreboard there. And then Taft went into Chatsworth, and the Jekyll and Hyde kind of continues. Chatsworth put up 55. It was a 55-21 final there. Kenny might have a little more on that one. And then the final game in the West Valley League, Birmingham went into Cleveland and continued the winning streak. This one, from all accounts, was not necessarily pretty regardless of the score. It was a 43-6 final, and Birmingham Patriots will be, again, the West Valley League champions. Now, that's our city section slate. I have 3 games listed from the southern section. We had the Bible Bowl, Heritage Christian versus Village Christian. Village was the host this year, and they came out on top 30-14. Bit of a rivalry matchup. Crescenta Valley versus Burroughs. That Burroughs defense made a few early plays to turn the tide, and it finished 28-7 with Burroughs on top. And the one that Kenny is going to go in depth on, Serra went into Sierra Canyon, and this was a slugfest, for lack of a better word. Bit of a high-scoring battle. It was a 35-28 final. Sierra Canyon Trailblazers come out on top. And those are the scores we have there. Kenny, I'm going to kick it to you. I know you've got some more in-depth news and notes.
Yeah, news and notes from around the valley. Listen, we're barreling towards the postseason. So this is the time of year where we start getting into accomplishments and noteworthy things with some of these programs kind of get into. We'll go back to the East Valley. We'll start with that Arleta NoHo 41-15 final. Mustangs all pretty much lock up the East Valley title. Tremendous job and accomplishment by especially that veteran, that senior group. Even though they do have some young players who kind of contribute for them. But it was good to see that senior group kind of bounce back. It was a down year last year, coming off of a league championship the previous year. And they looked lock, stock, and loaded to be a legitimate challenger in D1 when we hit playoffs in a couple of weeks. An interesting note, a side note for our leader is it's been a great season. They're 8-1 overall. They've got one more game next week, and they're winning that finale. They'll match their best season finish since 2015 when they went 10-0 in the regular season. A juggernaut of a program they were that year before they got upset in the D1 semis to Crenshaw. Moving on to Verdugo, 19 over Monroe. A good win for Verdugo. They snapped the losing streak, but this has been an odd season. They'll get to rest before the postseason. They'll kind of wait to see where the chips sort of fall. But it's been a weird year for Verdugo. They got off to the hot start. They lost 5 of their last 6 coming into this Monroe game, so it was good to see them in on a high note. Yes, it's going to be interesting. They probably should be a team that gets a couple of home games where they will be seeded in D3, but we'll wait to see where the chips fall when the playoff brackets come out. Poly beating Chavez 15-zip. Again, we know what the story is with Chavez. This is a program with a lot of young pieces. They're sort of building towards something great. They had a really good season. They've quadrupled their win total from last season, and the future still looks bright for them to be able to maybe do some things in the postseason. But the noteworthy thing to talk about here with this win over Chavez is Poly secures their 4th win in league, something we didn't see coming this year, and clinches a 2nd place finish. which is the highest they will finish in the East Valley since going all the way back to 2013, when the Parrots had a really good season that year where they made it all the way to the D3 championship game. So we'll see if there's some more mojo, some magic coming for Poly. The last time we saw him have a season like this, it translated into some wins in the postseason. Moving on to the West Valley. What else can be said about Birmingham? A 43-6 win over Cleveland, kind of a ho-hum game. Kaylie will get into that a little bit more, but like I said, a noteworthy thing. When you're talking about this Birmingham program, you're talking about their dominance, their continued dominance over the city section. This win over Cleveland stretches Birmingham's win streak in the city section to 38 games. This team has been unstoppable for 3-4 years now, but there have been points where they've kind of felt a little vulnerable. We'll see what that means for them when it comes to playoff time. They've got one more game to kind of, before we get into all of that, when we see they should be the team that hosts or the number one overall seed in the city. We'll see if they have enough still left in the tank with everybody gunning for them with the bullseye on the back to get it done. Granada with an impressive win over El Camino. The win over Elko for Granada clinches second place and second place finish for the second year in a row in the West Valley for the Highlanders. And a win in the regular season finale should more than likely clinch an open division playoff spot for the Highlanders, something that was the sort of the goal and the target for this team this season. They won D1 last year. They won the D1 championship last year. It was about progression for this program, wanting to establish themselves as being a team that's talked about with some of the best in the city. A win in the regular season finale will give them a chance to kind of get in that playoff bracket with the top dogs in the city and see what they can do. Chatsworth with an impressive win over Taft, 55-21. Chatsworth picks up their first win in West Valley, so congratulations to Coach Street for picking up his first win in the West Valley. And a win next week more than likely will secure Chatsworth the top seed, probably in D2 is where they'll probably be slated. We'll see. Who knows when the brackets come out, but that's where we would expect them to be. Moving into the Valley Mission. Sylmar with a big win over Van Nuys, 47-28. Win snaps the Spartans 2-game skid. They'll finish the season at 5-5. It was a sort of a year where you could kind of say Sylmar sort of was the line of demarcation in the West Valley. In the Valley Mission, where the teams that they lost to were the teams who are going to finish above them. The teams that they beat up they're going to finish below them. Spartans look to be headed to the D2 playoffs. Again, they finished just like Verduga. They're all finished up. They'll get a chance to rest up before those brackets come out, and we'll see where they land when playoffs time, when the playoffs can begin. Again, to repeat Arshavir sentiments, congratulations on Austin Ward picking up his first win as that Reseda head coach. It's been a trying time trying to get that program built up. They lost a lot coming out of that season 2 years ago where they made where the team was really good with a D1 title perennial contender. It's their first win in the program since November of 2021, which was a win over Eagle Rock in the D1 quarterfinal. So it just kind of tells you how much they sort of lost very quickly, and Austin Ward has done a great job trying to build that thing back up. The future looks bright for them, and the future looks bright, quite frankly, for Canoga Park. Lucius Mills is a guy that if you talk to people around the Canoga Park program, they believe in him. They know he has a plan in place. He's got a new staff ready to hit the ground running when they start next season. And those young guys who were forced to play this year will be better. They'll get more numbers into the program. They've already got a plan in place for that. So we'll see where Canoga is next year. And last but not least, looking at Panorama in that Kennedy game, we thought it might be closer, but Kennedy kind of showed you what we thought they were this year, which was a team that was the expected favorite in the Valley Mission. And what did they do? They went out and they handled business. They lock up their first Valley Mission crown with a 35-point win over Panorama. And it's the first one, and it's a monumental win for that program. Kennedy has sort of been building towards this for the last couple of years. Now they've kind of climbed to that mountaintop in the Valley Mission. They're the reigning D2 champions. They're going to be right in the mix and right in the middle of that D1 mix when playoff time rolls around. And they've got as good a shot as anybody to win it. Why? Because Diego Montes continues every week to get better and better and better for that team. That kid looks like the real deal. He looks like a guy that we will be mentioning with the top quarterbacks in the city over the course of the next 2 years because he's only a sophomore, folks. And he went out and did his thing this past week. So congratulations to Kennedy. And just some quick hits on the southern section side. Village handling Heritage. That makes it 3 wins in a row for the Crusaders. If you know anything about this Bible Bowl rivalry, it's streaky. And right now, the streak is headed Village's way. And Chase Everett is not leaving anytime soon. So Heritage might have their work cut out for them for the next couple of years. Burroughs continuing an amazing season. They go ahead and they all but clinch the Pacific Upper Championship. They're going to be a tough team to deal with when postseason rolls around. Sierra Canyon, I'll get into them. Moving to 9-0. They played a barn burner of a game this past week, and they look like a strong contender in that Division I where all the killers are on the southern section side. And they're going to be able to hang with all those teams. And last but not least, a shout out to Viewpoint. They got back in the win column, picked up their 6th win of the year. If they can manage to beat Brentwood, which will be a long shot, they'll get to 7 wins, something they haven't done since the early 2010s. So it's been a great turnaround, renaissance for that program this season. And those are my news and notes for week number 9.
All right. I mean, the week 9 was a lot of questions were answered, but there's a reason you play 10 games. There's still some questions. There's playoff seeding. There's a lot left to be decided in the final week. Before we get there, we are going to go in depth on a few of the games. And the first one, Kaylie Harden was there. Birmingham locking up another West Valley League title against Cleveland. Like I kind of hinted towards, the score doesn't say everything. So, Kaylie, take it away.
Yeah. So as expected, Birmingham came in and dominated against Cleveland. No surprises there. What is shocking, though, is after the last 3 seasons where we've seen a lot of great energy from Birmingham, especially coming from the sideline, the energy is low this year in general. I think they've got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder carrying these last 3 city titles from the previous years. And, these kids, they almost seem like they expect to win. So they have, if that's the energy they're going to carry, then they have to come in and handle business week in and week out with no problems. The issue with that is that they're not looking as their ego isn't translating to the way that they're playing. And this game, even though they did come out victorious, they had 4 turnovers. They're not handling the ball like the beasts of the city that they should be. That all being said, we did see a really great game from Ronell Hewitt and for Emmanuel Okolola for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So these 2 gentlemen both had a couple scores for their respective teams. Corey Hall didn't have as much of an impact on the game as we would have liked to see. He wasn't that big of a disruptor against the Patriots. Javen Hall and Kingston Tisdale did a great job sharing the ball this game and helping for the offensive front for the Patriots. Ultimately, the game near the end of the game, when things were looking a little shaky, the Patriots went back to what they know best, and we saw a couple very good connections between Tisdale and Mr. Waters to seal that game away and secure that win. The game ultimately ended with a nice and exciting, and this was the most energy you saw out of anyone the entire game, an exciting interception by Chris Barrera. He's a freshman, I believe, for the Patriots, and he caught the interception at the end of the game that removed any chance of further scoring by the Cavaliers. So congratulations to that young man on an exciting last play of the game.
Yeah, when you watch Birmingham these days, they're sort of, you can almost feel the weight of expectation on this team. Like they're supposed to go out and win every week. And unfortunately, most weeks, because they have been so dominant, that by the time you get to the mid-second quarter, they're already up 2-3 scores, and you can almost feel that it's like, oh, it's just another day. It's just another game. Once they get into city section play, they sort of, it feels like their energy is sort of matching what they're going up against on the other side. And unfortunately, we're at a place in time where it feels like a lot of the teams they play against don't believe they're going to beat them. So there is no the woofing, the barking at Birmingham doesn't work because they don't they're beating everybody, right? So when you come into a situation where you don't believe you're going to beat a team and they don't think you're going to beat them, you end up in those situations where it's like, let's just roll the balls out and play. And I agree. Sometimes that energy sort of feels like that's what that's coming off the sidelines. And this game sort of really kind of felt that way too. When I was kind of watching the tape on it, and it was like, it didn't feel like there was a lot of juice coming from either sideline, which is surprising, especially for a team like Cleveland, because they're always.
Yeah, you know what? That's the case. And it's also the case with Granada. Granada, no matter how much they're up or no matter how much they're dominating, they're usually always such a high energy team. And even when the game is close, they're not a team to give up so easily. When they played Birmingham, though, I've never seen them hang their head so quickly after playing in a deficit. So I think that it's kind of just become like a tale as old as time when it comes to, playing Birmingham for some of these teams in their league. So, I mean, maybe this year in the playoffs, we'll see things shake up a little bit, when Waters is graduated and off to college, maybe the energy will shift a little bit. Maybe we'll have some rising stars coming out of some of these other schools because a lot of them do have really young programs. So maybe in the coming years, we'll see that energy shift and that power shift within the West Valley specifically, but in the Valley as a whole as well.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say before we move on is hopefully they find that energy within the next couple of weeks, because there are some real landmines they're going to deal with when they get into the postseason. You've got teams like Bannon and San Pedro and Garfield. Carson has been talking about wanting to smack them around all season long, and Carson is already penciling themselves into the championship game and what they're going to do to Birmingham when they get there. Bannon is a team that's like, hey, we might see them first round, and if we see them first round, it's going to be an upset. So while they have sort of seemed like they was kind of sleptwalk through the West Valley, they better be prepared for what's coming, because this year, the crop of teams that are kind of going to be sitting in open are as dangerous a crop of teams as they will have seen in the last couple of years. So hopefully they kind of figure it out. Hopefully we see them gain some of that sharpness back over the next couple of weeks, as they might be kind of prepared for playoffs, because they're going to need to be.
Yeah, no, definitely. And before we completely move on to the next game, the game that I'll be talking about, I do want to kind of touch on it. It is kind of an interesting situation to be in going into the playoffs at this point. They have 1 week left to really find that energy. And you don't show you have it until you do it on the field. So, at the time we're recording this, they've got 2 or 3 practices left, not including a walkthrough. So it's interesting. We'll see where they go from there. So now I'll slide into the game I'm going to go in depth on. I was at Canoga Park High School on Friday night. It was senior night for Canoga. Definitely an air of excitement, of possibility. I think both of these teams believe that they had a chance coming in to walk away with the W. They both played like it, and it was definitely exciting to watch, kind of from the outset. So I'm going to touch on a few big moments real quick. So Reseda wins the kickoff. The first ball's going to Canoga to start. First play from scrimmage. A little bit of a miscommunication on the handoff and a hit. and we get a fumble recovery by Hector Monroy. Now, this kid had a heck of a night kind of throughout, but this is where it started. Picked up the fumble. Reseda was able to try to march the field a little bit and get close into the red zone. But what's been kind of biting the Regents in the butt all season is two things. Number one, capitalizing on drives when they have a chance. And number two, getting off the field on third down. And they had a few of those, third and fourth down, where they could have got off the field and ultimately did not. But it was back and forth. Now, Canoga scored first shortly after stopping Reseda in their territory in the red zone. Came out and they broke a 44-yard touchdown. It was very nice to see. But this is kind of something that's epitomized Reseda. They talked about is kind of making the stops when they need to. So the kid who scored is a sophomore, so he's going to be around for a while. Name is Dallas Lakey. He was shifty. He was actually their go-to back, carried the ball 22 times throughout the night. And that touchdown run, he made up for fumbling on the very first play from scrimmage. So it was interesting little dynamic there. But Reseda did not give up. They punched right back. Almost midway through the second quarter, they had the ball around midfield and broke it for 56 yards. This kid who broke it, he's been kind of their playmaker that they've leaned on. Amir Franklin, he took it 56 yards, like I said. It was the big play for them, and they converted, 2-point conversion on another pass to Monroe. So his fingerprints are right there. 8-6 Reseda, looking good. Now, going into the half is where it got a little, I'll say, dicey. So Canoga scored with 40 seconds left in the half. They went down the field and punched it in. This time it was, I don't have this gentleman, but punched it in. Unable to convert on the 2-point conversion. It's 12-8. So, back and forth continues. Unfortunately, interception thrown by Reseda, and now Canoga's got a chance. Kick a field goal in a halftime, 15-8. Touchdown game. Exciting. And like I said, back and forth continues. Reseda gets the ball to start the second half. Ultimately comes and scores. This was a 20-yard pass to Monroe. So he's got the fumble recovery. He's got the receiving touchdown here. Got the 2-point conversion earlier. His fingerprints are all over on the offense. 2-point was a keeper. Good. So now they're up 16-15, halfway through the third. Canoga gets the ball. They score as time is running out in the third, take it right back up. And we're standing on the sideline. We're like, this is a hell of a game. Now, both of these teams are making little mistakes here and there. Blown coverage, having trouble getting off the field if these defenses had gotten certain stops, you think maybe they're going to turn out differently. But again, these programs are growing and learning. And this is the kind of game you want to see. It's competitive. They're not hanging their heads after mistakes. You're watching these teams compete in an atmosphere that was actually pretty pumped. So, like I said, Canoga was up. And then a couple stops back and forth. Reseda gets the ball. Couple big plays. They end up getting just to the edge of the red zone. And they complete a pass to Zachary David. This was a nice little catch. 24 yards, and now it's a 1-point game. 23-22, 4 minutes on the clock. Reseda doesn't really kick the ball right now. They don't have a kicker. So they got to go for 2. There is no tie. This is kind of basically it. And get across. Rush is good, 24-23. Now, get to the next moment. Canoga's got the ball. There's a little bit of pressure. There's a moment where the quarterback rolls out and is trying to hit his receiver in a little pocket on a quick hitch. And the ball comes out awkward, a little short. Quarterback goes down. And you're thinking, ooh, I hope it's just a cramp. Well, unfortunately, he was down long enough for medics to come out, official timeout. Now he's got to leave the field for one play, at least. So he tried to get back in the game, and the official's like, no, you need to be out. So he gets out, and it was 3rd and short after that. Unfortunately for the Hunters, the very next play is an interception. Ball is intercepted by who else? Hector Monroy. So he gets essentially the game-sealing interception. The Regents run out the clock, get a first down, clock is running, take a knee, game over, and celebrations abound. Congratulations, Reseda. Congratulations, Coach Ward. Heck of a win. Great game. It was exciting to see. And, hopefully it's the first of many. I'm excited for kind of the building blocks that are in place at both of these programs, Canoga and Reseda. Kenny, before I kick it to you, I have one more thing to add. When I was in high school, Canoga was the team we needed to beat. I remember multiple years where we were always like, we got to beat Canoga. Canoga, the league title goes through Canoga. So hopeful that, Coach Mills can return that stature to the program where it's consistently kind of up there, and it'll return to a situation where it's with the Kennedys and the Panoramas and the San Fernandos, because you don't want to say that last year's first title since they moved to the Valley Mission was a fluke. And I think under Mills, they could be contending. I like what I saw yesterday.
Yeah, there are still enough positive. There's a lot of positive energy. Like I said, I'm blessed and fortunate enough that I know quite a few people. I know staff and parents of that are in and around that Canoga Park community, and there is a general belief, one, that reinforcements are on the way. They've got some good young players who are sort of cutting their teeth on the varsity level that are going to be better for what they've sort of gone through this year. And there's a belief that there are more kids that are going to come into the program with the understanding that there is room for you to play right away. If you're looking for a fresh start. So I think Lucius Mills will hit the ground running. I think this team was way more competitive than they probably should have been with a lot of what they dealt with this season. And I think they'll build, this is something you'll build on. And the same thing with Reseda. Like, these are two programs that the cupboards ended up a little bit bare. Reseda's maybe the reason why they ended up winning this game is because they're sort of in year 2 of this rebuild, where Canoga Park is just fresh in year 1, having to sort of restock the cupboard. So it seeing the teams play a competitive game gives you hope that the future is bright for both of these programs. And I think they will be. I think that the better days are ahead. I think that some of the heavyweights better look over their shoulder, because I don't think it'll take long for either one of these coaches to get these programs back to where they have been in recent years.
No, you know, and there's, like I said, there's noise to be made in the future for the Valley Mission. How it kind of edges out, we'll have to wait and see. But there's promising returns. You've got year 2, year 1, and you can look at both of them and say, hey, you started the year kind of here, and you've taken, and they've both taken positive progress forward. But we do have to move on, because I could talk about both of these programs for hours right now. But we do have to move on. Kenny, you had interesting insight into one heck of a Southern Section matchup. So I'm going to let you take it away without further ado. Serra and Sierra Canyon, jump in.
Yeah, Serra and Sierra Canyon. So essentially, we're going to jump in to the opposite end of the pool here with these two programs, because when you're talking about Serra and Sierra Canyon, two teams that are top 10 programs in the Southern Section, and even more so than just where they are today, one of the things that I was most excited about when Sierra Canyon joined the Mission League was the idea that adding a program of their prestige into a league that already has some heavyweights with some pretty long jackets in terms of accomplishments in this league already, namely at Gardena Serra with a coach like Scott Altenberg. Now you combine him and John Ellinghaus together and look at their accomplishments. You're talking about 10 CIF crowns. You're talking about 5 state crowns between these two schools. These are two coaches who know how to build programs, that know how to win. And when the circumstances are right, where both teams are primed and ready, that magic can happen. And that is what we saw here. We're talking about two teams that are chock full of stars, seniors, veterans, who have their eyes on winning postseason championships and doing damage. When you look at the Serra side, their 3-headed monster on offense of Jimmy Butler. No, not that Jimmy Butler, a different Jimmy Butler at quarterback. Zach Williams, their standout wide receiver that's got D1 offers, more D1 offers than he can count. Sincere Rainey, their bulldozer over running back. This is a team that came into this game with a belief that they could compete. This is when you talk to both those coaches, this was a trilogy matchup in their mind, because they played each other twice last year. Once in the regular season, it was close. They had a rematch again against each other in the playoffs. It was tight until halftime, until Sierra Canyon pulled away. So Serra had some receipts, and they came into this game wanting to wreck what Sierra Canyon was trying to accomplish this year, which is a perfect record in the Mission, a perfect regular season. They've been beating up every team they've played, and Serra wanted to kind of put a stop to it. And right off the bat in this game, it looked as if they would be able to do so. They got the ball first. They went right down the field. Jimmy Butler, precise with his passing. They mixed it up well with the run. They jammed the ball right down Sierra Canyon's throat, went up 7-zip a minute and 1 second into the game. And then on Sierra Canyon's ensuing possession, Wyatt Becker throws an interception to Trey Harrison, takes it back to the house. And before you could blink, Serra was up 14-0 on Sierra Canyon, a deficit that this team had not seen all year long. So right away, you had the intrigue of how would Sierra Canyon respond? They hadn't been tested this way. They had been blowing and stomping on people's necks for weeks now. So it was the first time all year we got to see this team really have to battle through some adversity, and battle through adversity they did. Sierra Canyon responded with a long touchdown drive to cut the lead 14-7 halfway through the quarter. Then when Serra got the ball back, they threw an interception. Maddie Reardon picked off a ball to kind of snuff out Serra's drive, and then that took the action into the second quarter. Sierra Canyon continued that momentum, drove the ball down the field. Beautiful throw by Wyatt Becker to Gilmore in the back of the end zone, tied the game at 14 apiece at the halfway mark of the second quarter. And then again, like two heavyweights just landing haymakers against each other. Serra gets the ball back right after they tied the game. Sierra Canyon tied the game. Jimmy Butler leads the troops right back down the field. He takes it in himself, a 12-yard scamper to put them back on the pack in front. It's 21-14 at the 3:40 mark in the second quarter. And then Sierra Canyon again picked themselves up off the mat, landed a body blow of their own. They took the ball, went down the field, nice drive, and capped it off with a Becker to Crawford connection with 53 seconds in the end zone to tie the game at 21 at the half. So as you can see, like these two teams, the Sierra Canyon absorbed the first punch, picked themselves up, battled back. Serra said, "We'll see. Hold my beer. We'll come right back. We'll come at you." And Sierra Canyon did what they've done all year long, responded. So the key was going to be which defense would sort of kind of make some adjustments, which team would be able to kind of adjust to the big plays that were being, hit on by each team. Third quarter, the defenses really did settle in. Two names that sort of really stood out on the defensive side of the ball for each team. Noah Ko Halua for Serra was everywhere. This kid was amazing. He had TFLs. He was breaking up passes, so he was disrupting the game on multiple levels. He really sort of kind of led that Serra defense in kind of really kind of putting a stranglehold on Sierra Canyon's offense in the third quarter. Carnell Ferguson, their all-war defensive end for Sierra Canyon, he did the same thing. The thing that Sierra Canyon needed to do in this game was they needed to kind of disrupt Jimmy Butler's his rhythm and his flow in that game. And Carnell Ferguson started to get in the backfield, started to disrupt things, really sort of stymied up Serra's offense, and neither team was able to kind of put any points on the board going into the fourth quarter. So game was still tied at 21 going into the fourth quarter. Sierra Canyon had the ball. Wyatt Becker scrambled into the end zone to give Sierra Canyon their first lead of the game at 28-21 with about 10 minutes to go in the game. But then again, two teams that know each other well, two heavyweight teams that are kind of going back and forth. What does Serra do on the ensuing kickoff? Zach Williams takes his 60 yards, set Serra up right away in scoring position. And then Jimmy Butler finds Zach Williams in the back of the end zone to tie the game at 28-28, 8:37 left to go in the game. Now here's where the end of this game gets wild. I'll walk you guys through this final possession because there was a lot. There was a game's worth of action that happened just in the last 8:37 of this game. Sierra Canyon gets the ball. They get a couple of first downs. You can tell that at this point where they're trying to grind some clock, maybe leave Serra with not a lot of time if they can put a score up on the board. They hit on a big run. Terrell Cooks. So that's something else to mention. Dane Dunn is Sierra Canyon's bell cow of running back. He's a junior. He's supremely talented, but you can tell he was a little bit gimpy. He was trying to muscle his way through on a bad ankle. And if you don't have your burst against this Serra front, there was not much doing for Sierra Canyon on the run game. They had to turn to their senior, one of the leaders of the team, Terrell Cooks. He sort of got the offense going and got the ground game going. That's who they began to lean on. He hit a big run, got the ball inside the 5, but a face mask penalty on the O lineman pulls it back out. So instead of being 1st and goal set up inside the 5, now it's 1st and 20 back on the 35. Sierra Canyon gets called for another personal foul. This time they tried to hit a bomb in the back of the end zone. Flag goes up. They call a personal foul face mask on the wide receiver for holding the Serra corner's face mask. So that backs them up even further. So now you're talking about it's 2nd and a country mile from the 44 when they were just inside the 5. Now they trying to matriculate the ball just to maybe try to get it in the field goal range. Obviously, having to try to get 30 yards wasn't going to happen. They line up for a 53-yard field goal attempt. They have a kicker with that kind of range, but in a pressure pack situation, that's a tough ask. He lines up, he leaves it just a little short, but again, here comes another flag. Serra gets called for roughing the kicker, which gives Sierra Canyon a brand new fresh set of downs to continue to drive. And more importantly, now the clock now is officially against Serra, because now this is where we're inside of 3 minutes. Now Sierra Canyon is going to grind. They run the play down. They run the clock down until Dane Dunn finally punches one in with a minute to go on the clock. Put Sierra Canyon back in front, 35-28. To Serra's credit, Jimmy Butler hit a couple of passes, got them inside the 35, but that was all she wrote. He had to put one into the end zone. Sierra Canyon picks it off to put the nail in the coffin. But it was as entertaining of a game as we have seen in the city or the southern section. It was a game that's really lived up to the hype. These are two teams that are in the top 10, two teams that people believe can really go all the way and claim section championships this year. And it was a back and forth affair. Kudos to Serra for coming into a hostile environment, because that was absolutely a hostile environment at Sierra Canyon. And they kind of landed that first shot and kind of really took the crowd out of it. And it was a good job by Sierra Canyon to fight their way back into it. I think the future is bright for both of these teams. I think both of these teams are going to go quite far in the playoffs. I think Sierra Canyon proved tonight what a lot of people were wanted to see from them, with this being their first real test in quite a few weeks. What would they do, or how would they respond to a really, really supremely talented team that could punch them in the mouth and make them have to play a game from behind? And I think they passed that test and answered those questions. I know for me personally, it was something I wanted to see from Sierra Canyon, knowing they're going to be in a playoff bracket with the St. John Boscos in the modern days when playoff time comes around. Now I have a belief that this team might actually be able to play or maybe beat one or two of those teams and maybe claim the D1 championship, which for all accounts is the toughest championship to get here in California. So kudos to them. It was a great game, and good luck to them the rest of the way.
Indeed. Those are two Southern Section teams we'll be keeping an eye on when the playoff brackets are released. Next weekend, there's going to be some exciting matchups throughout city and Southern Section. So, but before we wrap up, from the games we watched, we might have some ideas from a game that I didn't necessarily watch, but I edited the article, read the article. If you have not, go to our website, VST, ValleySportsTelegram.com. Read the Game of the Week article. It is worth it. Gives you kind of the feeling of what happened between Kennedy and Panorama. So my nominee for Game Player of the Week, Diego Montez. He did it all. He had 2 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. This kid literally put this team on his back. And like we've touched on, he's only a sophomore. Diego Montez is only going to get a lot better as time goes. So that's my nominee, Player of the Week.
Yeah, Man, there were a few. Diego Montes was definitely one who was up there for me. I think another individual from the same team who also is worth getting some mention of because of the what he's meant to that team and in terms of his role change this season, so he doesn't get as many touches as he has gotten since last year. He was a kid 2 years ago that a lot was put on him to sort of kind of be the future of that program. He was their JV MVP, and I'm talking about like Lonzo Fuentes Gutierrez. As a senior, he has been asked to kind of lead this group, even in a role that has changed. Last year, he was playing out wide. This year, he's primarily been their tailback, but he's a jack of all trades, and this was a game in which he showed that he was a jack of all trades. 234 all-purpose yards, 80 rushing, 18 receiving, 136 kick in the kick return game, including a big kick return that sort of blew the game wide open and sort of broke Panorama's backs. So Lonzo Fuentes Gutierrez is a nominee for me. And I guess another nominee I would also like to throw in there is Kingston Tisdale at Birmingham. A few weeks ago, we talked about, like Kaylie talked about, he really wasn't doing what they were asking of him in that offense, which sort of led to him kind of getting parked and Javen Hall getting more time in there. And a lot of kids would sort of kind of pout, but he clearly is a kid who kind of went back to the workers table and sort of redefined his blueprint, and he's played much better since. In this game this weekend was sort of indicative of that. 12 of 13, $199. He didn't have to do a lot, but what he was asked to do was be precise and make good decisions with the football. He did that. He hit a couple of big throws that sort of really kind of took Cleveland out of the game. So just for the fact that he has sort of kind of turned around a little bit of what was going on with him mid-season and sort of kind of looks like he's sort of regaining that sharpness that Rose and that staff is looking for. So I'll throw Kingston Tisdale in there as well as a nominee for Player of the Week.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Kenny. I think Alonzo definitely deserves his flowers for the leadership role that he's taken on for his team. But similarly, still as a young quarterback, Kingston Tisdale is showing his maturity and his ability to adapt to the obstacles that are in front of him. That was made very apparent this week. And I think it was really nice at the end of the game after, not necessarily seeing them struggle, but not seeing them be as dominant as you would have liked to see in the beginning of that game against Cleveland. I think at the end, like watching those connections between him and Peyton Waters, it was a nice reminder that they still have the juice to do it this season.
Yeah, no, definitely. All have their merits, all have their reasons to be up here as Player of the Week, honorable mentions. Some really standout performances, not just on the scoreboard, but in the locker room. And especially in the case of Lonzo, kid's something special. So,
I'm sorry to cut you off. There's one more name, and I had written it down and couldn't find it in my notes. Just wanted to shout out the young man because it's a team. They've had a good year, and we haven't really talked much about individual players on the team. But Xavier Vega at Arleta, he had a game that's sort of indicative of who Arleta is. The young man had 139 on the ground. He had 45 receiving yards, but also led the team with 10 tackles. So it just kind of tells you the sort of the workman-like team that Arleta has, and I thought that young man was also worthy of being mentioned. Sorry to cut you off there.
No, definitely. That's okay, because you reminded me that I actually had to officially throw out another honorable mention, and for me it was Mr. Hector Monroy at Reseda.
Mm-hmm.
The game he had, fumble recovery, interception, 2 touchdowns, all in all around, heck of a game from him. Even if you look at the numbers, they're not quite there, but his impact was all over that. So that would be another honorable mention there. So now, moving and looking forward, week 10, it's the last week of the regular season, and there's still something to play for all these kids. It's pride, it's the name on the front, it's those school colors. We say this all the time because it's true. We're excited to do this because we love putting shine on these kids. It's all about the love and just bringing you some of these stories that you're not going to hear anywhere else. Right? Because if we fully feel, if we're not showering these kids with love and their flowers, that maybe no one else is. But we do it to lift them up. We do it because we care. So go out there, week 10, last week of the regular season. It's another week to pack those stands, get loud, be proud, and show those colors, show those kids you care. And if your team's in the playoffs, consider it a warm-up. Get those vocal cords ready to do a lot of screaming right after.
Yeah, man. Like I said, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all of the above, man. Like this is our work. This is what we like to do. We want to bring you the stories of these kids, and we appreciate all you guys who've been there, the guys who just started following us, the ones who've been there while we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and continue to support these kids, man. And like I said, playoff time, pack these stadiums. It's right around the corner. Their energy, they feed off of it. These kids are making memories that are going to last them a lifetime. So we hope you guys are like us and want to be a part of that as well. So thank you guys. And as always, thank you guys for supporting us.
Yeah, thank you for all your engagement this season. We're not done yet. We still got playoffs to go. So keep leaving your thoughts and keep giving us your feedback because we can only get better from it as well.
And with that, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace. Let's go, Chavez.